movie stars, rock and rolling through the cool guitars. Chuck's got the questions, digging so sharp, peeling back layers, hitting the heart.
But yeah, I was just saying the book is so good. I finished it in less than 24 hours. It was amazing. I just flew right through it. It's fascinating.
Right on. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Was it as that?
Yeah, you know, it's kind of exciting. You know, it's finally about to come out, you know, pretty soon here. So I've been in the midst of recording a new album. I'm in this Airbnb right now. So, you know, I haven't had a whole lot of time to really think about it, you know, that, yeah, the book is about to come out. Every day I'm preoccupied. So, yeah, it's pretty exciting when I stop to think about it.
Was it as fun to write it as it is to because just reading it, I'm just like, oh my, I mean, you look at like Motley Crue, The Dirt, I feel like that almost makes it look like milk and cookies compared to this thing. Like this thing is insane.
You know, I mean, my story is different than most, for one, you know, like, you know, just you mentioned Motley Crue, you know, those guys, their wildest tales happened after they achieved massive success. My successes came with like periods of working shit menial jobs in between, and I'm still not rich and famous, you know, I'm still a working musician. Yeah. But you know, yeah, we went through a lot of crazy shit, this band, you know, we lived and behaved like animals, you know. I mean, I left a lot of stuff out, like, to tell the truth, you know. I mean, you know, if there's ever a second book, you know, I need something to tell.
Oh, geez, I can't imagine what's left out. There's so many crazy things where I was like, I can't believe you put that in the book. There's so many moments like that.
Well, you know, I wanted the book, you know, because I've read a lot of rock books, and, you know, a lot of them, you know, yeah, it's a fine read, you know, but it didn't affect me. And you know, and I hope this one did. You know, I wanted, like, you know, the tales of the methamphetamine abuse to make your skin crawl, you know. I wanted people to laugh, to crack up. I wanted people to cry, you know. I think the book achieved it, you know. I mean, I had to pull a lot of scabs back, you know, to write this book along with, you know, Adam Tepedelen, my co-writer, you know, which for me, part of the battle was just, you know, because I wanted to do it for a long time, and Adam approached me about it. And you got to be comfortable with the guy you're telling all this stuff to, you know. And with Adam, I found someone that I could open up. And the funny thing is, preparing for the book, I would just send him a list of phrases, and, you know, they're meaningless to anyone else, but it'd be a one sentence phrase that would trigger an entire story, like a 3-word phrase. But, you know, because that's what we've used, you know, to describe this fucking insanity for so long, would just be some nickname we gave it. So I just sent him a long list of stuff, and he'd go down the list and just, you know, well, what about this? And like, oh, okay. And next comes this huge story, you know, out of that one little phrase.
Did you get help from some of your bandmates or friends remembering some of this stuff? Because, like, I'd imagine if you're that fucked up on like all the shit you guys were doing, like meth and getting drunk, like, how do you even remember some of these stories? Like, is it something like you're putting the pieces together with other people helping you?
I have a really good memory, you know. It's like, even during all the, you know, the drug use and all of that, you know. And there's a couple of moments where I might have like hit someone else up for, like, you know, just for to double check something, you know, a particular date or era or whatever, you know. I mean, not necessarily era, because, you know, if it's in the 80s, it's in the 80s. But yeah, I've always had a really good memory. Like, I have a huge photo collection and of live photos back in the day when fans would come up and give you like a thing of developed photos. You know, now everything's digital, and, you know, I can pretty much look at them and tell you where they were taken to this day. But, you know, like, some of these stories, they're like ingrained in my head, you know, so it wasn't hard to remember them.
Yeah. Well, and so you got your buddy Kirk from Metallica doing the foreword. And for people who don't know, I mean, you were his guitar tech in Exodus. Then you guys played together. Then, of course, he left for Metallica. But he talks about how, you know, compliments you as a very funny guy, but very intelligent with really good observations. What kinds of conversations do you have with him? Do you guys get really deep into like philosophical things about meaning in life and all that stuff?
Occasionally, yeah, especially Kirk, you know, because, you know, I mean, I appreciate everything he said, and like, no, I was not a guitar tech. I was a roadie. Back then you're a roadie. You're
Okay.
I
All right.
never tuned his guitar, not one time. We carried it in to the backyard party.
Oh,
And I might carry his little Galleon Kruger combo amp.
oh, I lost your vocals. You muted. I can't hear you. Hello? Hello?
We try it. Can you
Oh,
hear me?
yeah, yeah. I don't know what happened. That was weird.
Did it and then unmuted it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can't call me a technician back then. But
Yeah, you said you just smoked weed, and I think that's what you even said in the book.
yeah, we smoked weed and drank off the kegs. It was fun though. We had a good time, and this book brought back a lot of memories for Kirk and I. We were just like, dude, wow, it was so crazy. He called me up one day after reading it, almost in tears. Because it's our childhood. At least for a brief period of my career. But I owe it all to him. Because he's the guy one day said, "You want to learn to play guitar?" And 6 months later, I was in Exodus.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then like reading too about how when you got the Slayer job, and then you later found out that when Jeff found out it was you taking over for him, he said, "Fuck yeah!" Like he was kind of down that they were going to tour without him, but when he found out it was you replacing him, he was like, "Fuck yeah!" Which gave a seal of approval.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't know that until his memorial. When Kristen from Slayer's management read a statement from Kathy, Jeff's wife, and that was kind of the thing that was always kept private between themselves, and hearing that, I broke, I'm not gonna lie, I broke down quite a bit, because it was an emotional day anyway. I always said, in a perfect world, Jeff would have never left the band, not even for a minute. In a less than perfect world, I would have filled in a little bit while he recovered, because I always wanted Jeff to come back. It's the world needed him, and I was just honored to like keep his seat warm.
Yeah, well, he must have been a fan of yours. Like they chose you maybe because they knew Jeff was a huge fan. Because I think you said too in the book that someone had told you that Jeff never watched bands side stage, but he watched Exodus.
Well, I mean, we toured together as children. I'll use that term. Young animals. And we were really close friends, from, during that period, as years go by and Slayer went to world dominant, conquer the world, we didn't see each other much, but we played Hellfest one time. And it was it was like the only time we ever accepted the offer to like play Bonded by Blood in its entirety. We rarely do it. We have 2 shows coming up for the 40th anniversary, and he came up and watched the show, and it was Carrie's late tech Armand Crumps who said Jeff watched the show and he never comes up to watch anybody play. But we're friends from the heavy metal infancy, and of our infancy. And that friendship was always there. And I think I got the call because I was made the most sense for one, like I guess I stood the best chance of not having Slayer fans throw shit at me. I mean, there's a thrash metal connection, and the OG of all of it, one of them, myself. And so, it made perfect sense. You get some new kid, what's he doing here? Where was he when Show No Mercy was recorded? I was listening to it with Paul Bailoff. So, we loved it too, by the way.
Yeah.
So, there was an OG connection and old friends, and it made the most sense, I guess, for them.
I thought it was cool too that you said you talk about Slayer fans throwing shit. There were some fans that were like flipping you off and stuff.
A couple
in the book.
a couple.
One of them, you got up in their face, right?
Well, one of them, because he was a real fucking dick, and he was front row center in Milan, Italy, and he was down there just flipping me off, fuck you the whole show, and the stage wasn't that high, and you're able to hop onto the subwoofers, and that next thing you know, the guy's looking, and I'm like 2 feet from his face, and like, if you got something to say now, just fucking say it. He had nothing to say. And one other time, this guy with a really bad skullet, was like flipping me off and shit. And I'm not thin skinned, like I'll just ride it out, But one guy can ruin a show in front of 5,000 easily if you let it. And that guy, I finally pointed him out to our production manager, and the talking on the radio was being done. And I think the guy realized he was about to get thrown the fuck out. So he fucking vanished back in the crowd. And other than that, I had one other guy who was flipping me off, but smiling, and I was flipping him off back. And at the end of the show, he goes, "We love you. We just miss Jeff." And I said, "I miss Jeff too," because, he was down at the front as well. But we were kind of having fun with it too. Like, on Angel of Death, when I do the big whammy bar scream and I hold the guitar above my head, I was just like, "Fuck you." And he was laughing, and he's going like that, It was a little gamesmanship is what that one was. But I mean, it's like when I first did it, people, a lot of people like, "Wow, this sucks about Jeff, but this is going to be something cool to see." None of us knew it would be 10 years running,
Yeah, and you're back now doing some more shows, even after that you guys had retired. Now that's kind of, or is there there's not a tour set up though, is there?
No, there's never going to be another tour. I was as surprised by this as anybody. Like I know people think, they knew all along. Like I have no fucking idea, none, until I got a call saying Slayer would like to do a couple of shows, and like, of course, I'm down for it. But I mean, if Slayer continuing with a couple of shows yearly, if it, and every year I think it's a wait and see if we do it again. We're doing it again this year. But keeping it limited like that makes it special, makes it cool, and it allows me to focus on Exodus. Because Slayer are my childhood friends. These are my kindergarten friends, in a virtual sense, I mean, and this is where I should be right now, is making music with Exodus. I'm a songwriter, and Slayer, that's Carrie's jam, and that's perfectly fine and fair. But I want to write riffs, I want to write songs, and I want to do it with Exodus and go out and play some Slayer shows is awesome. The last year we were really good. We did not suck. We were fucking killing. But we also worked really hard to overcome 5 years of no activity. We practiced really hard.
Yeah, I mean, I've still never seen Slayer. I got to see you guys. I'm gonna have to like do a travel date and come and see one of these shows.
You're gonna have to rectify that, because you now have a golden opportunity to actually do it.
Yeah, and I think that's so cool that you're doing some selected shows. So for people, because there's some people who weren't even born when some of this stuff came out, and they want to see you guys.
Yeah, I mean, if you weren't born when we were still functioning and you are now, you're really young.
Yeah.
It's been 5 years. But yeah, a lot of people, maybe at the time of the band's retirement, maybe you were 10 years old, and now you're 15 and can go to a show. So it gives you a chance to see it. And the show we've put forward is sick. It's awesome. I'm living out my childhood dreams of fire everywhere. It's awesome. I fucking love it.
Yeah.
So rad.
That is so crazy. The book is so, I mean, you just tell the whole story. It's weird to say this, but is it fair to say it's kind of inspiring? Like you, not only is there kind of like a rise to fame, but then there's this like epic comeback. Cause you really, I mean, you hit rock bottom basically in this book, like, and then you come back, like a phoenix from the ashes rising. It's amazing.
Well, it is a story of redemption, like I like to stress, it's not a story about rags to riches, because I still don't know what riches are like, like, I mean, do I own a house? Yes. Is it a California expensive house? Fuck no. I live in the country, I live in the woods, and it's awesome. And, I have to look at my budget and my bills like anyone else. I drive a Ford Explorer. I don't drive a fucking Corvette or a fucking Porsche or anything like that. I'm still working and have to like look at like gaps of time off, like figure out, well, all right, I need to work here because I got bills to pay. But it's a redemption story of how you can like squander it all, and and even without, I always like to say, even without the Slayer arc of the story, it was a redemption story. I got sober and started making really fucking awesome metal albums again, and making a living at it. If you're a musician and you can make a living, you're winning the battle because it's hard, to do this, because you can't have a day job when you gotta leave all the time on tour, and a lot of musicians fall to the wayside because of that. They just can't keep looking for new jobs. But it does show that you can come back from the perils of drug addiction and so forth.
Yeah, it was interesting that the crazy part. I mean, where you talk about in '93, basically the band ends, and Zetro's working as a foreman at a roofing company, and gets you and Rick jobs there. And then Kerrang wrote an article about it, like called "Riffin' in '83, Roofing in '93."
Yeah, fuck you, Kerrang.
No, but
No,
like,
actually, it's all
is
love,
that part of
because
the
that is like the
motivation?
funniest insult ever. It's pretty classic. I mean, I have
Yeah,
to hats off to them. That's pretty good.
but was that part of the motivation? Because you also said you'd go to shows and you'd get angry because you'd see dudes with less talent than you who were doing better, and then your wife at the time encouraged you to pick up the guitar again.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd go to a show and these guys fucking suck. I'm not going to be specific, not even necessarily suck, but when you're not doing anything, everybody sucks because they're doing what you should be doing and what you did for, so much of your youth. And it wasn't until I got sober and I quit doing drugs that all of a sudden,
Oh, I lost you. Your mic again. You got muted. I can't hear you. Hello?
you got me back.
Yep. Yeah, you're back now. Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yep. I don't know what happened.
Okay. I was just saying, the drugs, had buried any creativity I had. And it wasn't until, I quit doing speed that all of a sudden riffs were flying out, all right, I can still do this.
Yeah, the craziest part about the meth, I mean, there's some crazy stories about doing meth, but the weirdest part is that you just like how you quit this, the way that you quit was like you didn't go to rehab or 12-step program. You ran out, you couldn't take it to Europe, or you used it all up in Europe. You couldn't find any meth
First
in
2 days, yeah.
Yeah. So then you just kind of like had to, you were dope sick and you couldn't find any meth. So you became sober, and then you just never tried it again after that. Hello? Oh, I missed you. You're muted again. Hello? Oh,
Hello.
yep, you're back. Sorry, yeah. Oh, you're muted again.
Fuck,
I don't know. It keeps muting that.
am I there?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we got dope sick as fuck, and just we just went to heavy metal rehab, which is typically history would prove it's the least successful rehab on earth, tour, who goes on tour to get sober. But meth was not prevalent in Europe, I mean, maybe in certain spots if you're well connected, and it was shitty, but we just, I started gradually feeling better every day, and then I got home and traded that huge rock of fucking speed I had for a ride home. The only good thing it ever did for me is it got me home.
And you quit drinking cold turkey too, right? You didn't do a 12-step program for that either.
No, I mean, I was never an alcoholic. At the time when I quit drinking, it was more about a depression thing that was setting in the middle of a pandemic. I can barely play because my elbows are so fucked up. My drummer and long time collaborator and best friend Tom is battling cancer, and so I was sitting alone out in my place. I live in the country, and just sitting there getting hammered, by myself, and some days I wouldn't drink at all, most days I wouldn't, but then I would, and I'd get super passive aggressive with my wife because I was just super depressed. And I just decided, after being a real dickhead one night, to just quit. And I don't regret it. I know what most liquors taste like. It's like I'm okay, not pounding any more Jägermeister. But at the time, prior to the pandemic, I was a teetotaler in the world of heavy metal drinkers. I drank a lot of beer. I was a beer drinker. I rarely had a hangover. I was the first guy to go to bed, but it was during that time of the world gone to shit that I was just sitting there, and I'd go to the store and buy these 11% alcohol, triple IPA bottles that big. And I drink 3 of them, and I get hammered and I just sit there and fucking sulk. And, it wasn't doing anyone any good. So, I decided to quit. But, it's the best thing I ever did, short of quitting drugs in the first place.
Yeah, because you mentioned when you quit the meth, all these like riffs came pouring out of you, and it was the same thing when you quit alcohol. It was like you had all this built up like musical energy that just came out.
Well, it was actually creatively, it was the opposite. I was worried about how I'd be able to create without alcohol, even though I didn't drink when I wrote, so that made no sense. But like during the last album, we'd work during the day, and the second the day's work was done, I'd crack a beer, like and several, at one point Tom Hunting says, your ability to consume beer is impressive, because I'm just, big mug and just pounding them down. And but that was my unwinding, and so everything affects you mentally, and like, all right, can I write sober completely, even though I didn't drink when I wrote those songs? And I drank later at the end of the day. When I wrote the riffs, I was sober. I don't get up in the morning and start playing guitar and drinking, but you start worrying about shit like that you shouldn't even have to concern yourself with, because the two weren't mutually dependent on each other.
Yeah. Do you find yourself, well, how do you occupy that time now that used to be with drugs and alcohol? Is there something else, other hobbies that you've taken up now, or ways to de-stress or whatever?
Just spend as much time as possible with my grandkids and my family and my kids, and just play guitar. I play the hell out of the thing now. And Exodus, it keeps me fucking busy. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. What's the update with Exodus? I know you guys, Zetro's out now. I think is Rob back in the band?
Rob's back.
Yeah.
We've been in the studio for 2 weeks now. Tom's wrapping up drums. We've set ourselves an ambitious goal on this record. We're recording 2 albums right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're a couple of songs shy from hitting our total goal of having 2 albums of like crushing material, no filler. We figured, like, if we have the songs, let's record them, and when it's time to release the follow-up, it's done, it's in the can. I mean, the chances are by the time we get to that point, I'll have new stuff that has to be included. Oh, this is so good. But then we go in the studio for 2 weeks, not 2 months.
So you'll release the first one and then you'll wait for the other one?
Yeah, we'll keep it in the can, ready to go, and won't have any downtime. We're not getting any younger. We might as well work a little extra hard now while we can.
And then is there plans to tour once that's released?
Oh yeah, of course. We're shooting for a spring release next year, like late winter, spring. We were hoping to get it done this year, get it out this year, but we would have had to rush it. And, since we're trying to record 20 to 22 songs, and we needed the time, and it's going to be worth it in the end. And this shit is fucking phenomenal.
Okay. Wow. Nice. Well, fans will definitely look forward to that for sure.
Yeah. Why don't we just work hard? We're definitely a hardworking bunch. We're not afraid to like bust our ass, and it'll save us some work down the road, in between that little break between albums, we'll be able to relax a little. Maybe I can finally go on a vacation. I've never had one.
What? Are you serious?
I've gone on vacations where I played guitar to get there.
Yeah.
Fly my wife out and we play somewhere, and okay, she's been to Rio, but I had like a 2 days off there. Have I ever gotten on a plane and gone someplace, without a guitar? Not once in my life, ever.
Wow. Yeah, because that is very I mean, that's like you're working when you're traveling and touring. That's not the same.
It's not the same. And but I'm kind of workaholic. I'd probably have a hard time shutting it off when I got there. But at some point I'm gonna do it. I have a fuck ton of freaking flyer miles, so
Yeah.
I should use them at some point.
Where would you go if you could go anywhere in the world just for like a week to relax?
Oh God, I mean, I don't know. Someplace tropical, but I'm not a sun guy. It's like I'm pale skin and I burn easily. But I've been to Europe so many times that's off the table. I've only been to Hawaii once, and that was with Slayer, and I never left my hotel except to go out to dinner one night. So
Yeah. Hawaii's
maybe Hawaii.
amazing.
I don't know. It's like the closest I've had to a vacation is Exodus loves to play the cruise ships. We have fun. We embrace it. A lot of bands, don't like it. So we've done a few of those. And so I've been to the most recent to the Dominican Republic and, Bahamas and stuff like that. And it's always fun, but I'm still playing to do it.
Right. Yeah. I just did my first cruise. I'd never been on one. It's crazy how big those ships are and how much stuff there is.
Oh, there's floating shopping malls. They're crazy.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'll sit down with my wife, Lisa, and we'll figure out where we're going to go. But at some point, we've got to use those miles.
Yeah, no, totally. Well, and then so when you do tour with Exodus, is there any bands that you is it going to be maybe bands you've already toured with, or do you think you'll try to reach out and do something different this time?
Could you repeat that?
Would you try to tour when you set up the tour with Exodus? Would you try to tour with bands that you haven't toured with before, or is it going to be maybe some of the same packages we've seen in the past?
No, we're always looking for new bands to tour with or new bands for us to support.
Yeah.
I love supporting. It's less pressure on me to carry the tour, and we spent 2 years doing this Bay Strikes Back tour with Testament and Death Angel opening, and half the time I'd already scoped out the restaurant for dinner, and we get off stage and change, and Testament's just going on, and we're sitting down to eat. It's awesome. And the day goes smooth, and I stay on a regimented schedule, and I'm watching 90 Day Fiance before the fans have left. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy because you talk about how you guys you supported Metallica in '85. And then they told you, well, that's the last time you'll ever play with us because you guys had like a bigger riser, and you said that you destroyed them and you made them look foolish. And then
we crushed them that night for sure.
And you never did play with them again.
No, I mean, I think it wasn't so much us, but Metallica started touring with bands like the Cult and stuff like that, supporting. But yeah, we smoked them that night. Like if you were there, you were there. I mean, now they could go up and make armpit fart noises, and they'd get a better response than us. Without guitars, they could just go up and tell jokes, and it'd go over better because they're fucking Metallica. And I give them credit where credit's due. I've always said Master of Puppets to me is the greatest metal album ever made. It's perfect. Jealous. It's so good.
Yeah, no, that is a classic. And then
I mean, it's the best. It's between that and Judas Priest Stained Class for me, which are my two favorite metal albums of all time. But Master of Puppets is pretty perfect.
Yeah, and you guys almost toured with Priest, but in the '80s, but then it fell apart because the label wouldn't support you guys or something.
Yeah, we had no tour support and nothing, and so we lost out, and Pantera did it.
But you could now. That would be a good time to jump on tour with Judas Priest. Maybe this next tour.
Who knows? We'll always take that phone call.
Yeah. Or what about your relationship with Megadeth? You talk about that in the book with Dave Mustaine. You gravitated towards him because you guys were both evil as fuck. That's what you said in the book.
Pretty much true. I mean, we, when Exodus and Metallica met each other, we kind of like saw each other as kindred spirits. We were like influenced by the same music and playing the same kind of music. And James was kind of shy back then. He was quieter, and Dave was the front man. He was the one who spoke between songs. And there was maybe a little more venom, the band Venom in Dave Mustaine, and there was a lot of venom in Exodus. And so there's a little more evil there. But we got on famously with all of them. They fucking moved to the Bay Area because they knew this was the place they had to be.
Yeah, and then you tell the story. This is crazy with talking about Overkill. The singer Bobby Blitz grabbed you one day after you took a Quaalude. You almost fell down the stairs at Studio 54, and like you really think you say you joke. You're like, oh, I could have been a paraplegic. Like, was it really that bad of a fall if you had fallen?
Oh, some steep stairs, and that's assuming that at the bottom of them, I don't keep going and go over the railing, because this is in the balcony. But yeah, I was about to do a header. I got dizzy and I was spinning a little bit, and he reached out and grabbed me by my belt. So thank you, Bobby. Friends to this day, love him dearly.
Yeah, and there's so many crazy stories like that in the book. Like your singer falls through a roof, like a glass roof. Is that what it was? A glass
skylight? Yeah.
Skylight. Sorry, yeah.
Hanging some clothes up to dry that should have been re-washed because they were probably wet for like 3 days, and he fell through his own skylight.
So, and then yeah, I mean, somehow everybody survived. I mean, there was like so many stories like that, so many close calls. Like, do you think that's just luck, or?
I think a lot of it's fucking plain stupid, dumb luck. I mean, I've survived a lot of shit that could have gone the other way, just with just a flap of a butterfly's wings, it just veer you into 2 inches over to one side and you're fucking dead. But I'm lucky to be able to still do this. I don't take any of it for granted.
Yeah, and your arm seems to be doing better. That's interesting that they told you like not to take the cortisone shots and just do physical therapy, and that worked.
Yeah. I was cortisone is just a Band-Aid, and it works, but you're not supposed to depend on it. And I was depending on it, and just turned my tendons in both elbows to mush. So I've strengthened it. Every now and then I'll still have a little tennis elbow flare up, but I just treat it with some ice and ibuprofen, and just deal with it,
because it's so physical playing the guitar. And what about the drummers? Because you've worked with some of the best drummers. I think you say in the book though that you feel Tom is the best drummer you've worked with. Is that just out of like comfort, or is he just the most amazing to watch as well? Because I mean, you've seen all the best ones.
Well, I mean, I've played with him since I was 17 years old. So, like he's the best drummer for me, and best drummer for Exodus by far. Wouldn't trade him for 1,000 other guys. Dave Lombardo's one of the greatest drummers that ever walked the planet, and I'm honored to play with him. So is Paul Bostaff, Nick Barker, John Tempesta. These guys are all awesome. But for me, I'll take Tom Hunting over 100 of them, But, like people over the years have always talked shit about Lars Ulrich, but is there a better drummer for Metallica on earth? No. Like, we've had these conversations in the Exodus world where like someone will like, some crew guy or whatever start bagging on him, and we're like, go back and listen to Master Puppets or Ride the Lightning. What drumming would you do different? Nothing. It's perfect. So he accents James's riff better than anybody, and I would change none of it.
So it's just about finding the right fit for the band.
Yeah, exactly. Every band, like nobody's putting Lars in the conversation of best drummer, but he's the best drummer for the band he's in, which is also the biggest metal band of all fucking time. So, that's saying something, right? He played perfect for the song, and that's what else is required. I mean, I've seen guys online, like, YouTube dudes or whatever playing drums, and like, here's my drum cover of Battery, and they're putting double bass everywhere and just showing off, and it sucks. Sorry, it sucks. I'm watching it like your skills are admirable and they're fucking amazing, but you're ruining the song. You're not making it better by showing that you could play more. It's like Lars did it right. He played perfect, and he's the backbone behind James's riffs, which are monumental.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of the drummers and Dave Lombardo, there's a story. I don't want to spoil it. People need to read the book, but there's a story about him getting drunk and passing out in the room. That's really funny. How does that, like, did you have to get permission to write the stories about other people in the book?
I asked.
Oh, you did?
Okay. Asked, and he was okay.
Wow. Okay. That's very cool of Dave. Cause I'm like, it doesn't really make him look like a shining star. Cause I always like think,
no, it just makes him look human. We all like have our moments of getting too fucking hammered, like, God, I've had fucking thousands of them.
Well, yeah, and then like there's this story. I mean, I laughed out loud at this one too. There was a time that you found Walt Jr. from Breaking Bad drunk in your dressing room.
Oh, hammered! I went running to get my wife. Like, Walt Jr. fucking Flynn is in the dressing room. You got to get up here right now. And like fucking, and he was cool as fuck. But I was super fans of the show, right?
Yeah, I love that show.
No idea he liked metal at all. So he's like, when you don't, sometimes there'll be some, in the Slayer world, you'll meet people like I've met, and I'm friends with Jason Momoa, which blew my fucking mind. Here's Cal Drogo, right? He's coming to the show. You find out in advance, right? So you're super
Ah.
excited. But I had no idea, Walt Jr. was a fucking fan, and so you walk in the dressing room and you see someone you didn't expect to see there, like kind of surprising.
Wow. So there are definitely some perks to being in Slayer with stuff like that. Like, do you get?
Like that stuff's not what it's about. I still hang out with the same friends I've had since fucking high school and elementary school, and some of these guys are super fucking cool, but I never viewed myself as a guy who's like out trying to collect celebrity friends.
No, and I mean you're in it for the right reasons. You're in.
I'm
it
a super fan, so like
Yeah.
if I post a photo of myself and fucking Jason, it's because I'm still pinching myself that the dude fucking, wrote a quote for the back of my book,
Yeah, no, that stuff. I mean, it's just a nice little like perk, right? Like when you first toured with Slayer, you were used to a different level. That they're putting you in these like more fancy hotels and everything, and it's like,
You mean more fancy? You mean hotels in general, just Exodus, we live on the bus, but we're lucky we have a bus, like,
yeah,
and if we have a day off to where we're in the town, and so I can actually stay in a room till checkout the next day, I'll get a hotel room, but that's like once a week, But yeah, having hotels is nice. But none of it matters about someone's celebrity if they're not cool as hell. It's like if I'd met Jason or anyone else and they weren't fucking solid people, it doesn't matter to me. My life's, not doesn't swing by that.
yeah. No, I've noticed that most of the people I've interviewed that I've looked up to have been super cool. Most of them.
Well, that's what you hope for. I mean,
Yeah.
like you meet someone you love, like, I've had people like, you ever met Richie Blackmore? And no, I don't want to meet Richie. He's my favorite guitar player of all time. And he's a notorious dickhead. He'd probably be a dickhead to me. And I don't want to have that stain hanging over me when I listen to Gates of Babylon. All right. Or Stargazer, I just want to hear Richie. I don't want to think about how he fucking thumbed his nose at me or told me to get the fuck away from him or whatever. Maybe he'd be real nice. I don't know. But when the guy carries a reputation as being super sullen, it's just sometimes best not to meet your heroes.
That makes sense. That's actually the best advice I've heard on that side. Because people say, don't meet your heroes. You should only meet the ones that you know are going to be cool.
Yeah, well, sometimes you meet them and you don't know that, and they
Yeah.
turn out to be just awesome people,
Yeah. Well, and what about the fans? Like, I mean, most of the like you mentioned a couple giving you the finger, but I'm sure a lot of fans have been really cool to you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cool back to them, and like occasionally you'll see online some fan will like have some horrible negative interaction with you, and you're remembering the interaction and like, I don't know what the fucking dude's talking about, because I have a million fans, who will tell you that I'll answer their questions, talk to them online, and share a link to their GoFundMe when they're fucking in trouble. And then you'll find one guy who maybe you didn't give enough time to at that very moment, and they post how you were a total asshole to them. Like I saw recently someone claimed I was an asshole at a signing I did to raise money for animals at Aftershock Festival last year, as I sat there with my grandchildren smiling, signing autographs. Let me see. I had my grandkids there and it's on the time of my life, and somehow I was an asshole to you. That one's beyond me. Shit like that, So you see shit like that and you just go, fuck you, dude. Like, because I know that didn't happen.
Yeah. So I mean, because I know, like you're saying, the one time you got up in the fan's face that was in person, but like online and stuff, you just ignore that shit. I mean,
well, I'm fortunate that me personally, I have a lot of really great fans, and I'm really open with them online. And I run my Instagram, not someone else. I'll answer questions. I'll fucking comment on their shit, and they know that. And like occasionally you get someone who's like I explained, someone who thinks for some reason that some charity signing with you surrounded by your own grandchildren. You like took time to be an asshole in front of everybody, but you're the only guy who saw it. Like,
Mhm.
shit like that. You can't please everybody, but I try to like, because I'm nothing without fans. I had someone at the NAM convention last year, the National Association of Music Merchants convention in LA, and he was talking to me, and I kept getting stopped for photos, and guy goes, "Does it bother you?" I said, "No, it bothered me if they don't want it photo anymore,
Yeah, no, I mean that's such a huge
because then like
compliment.
where are you now? You're like, I lost my whole career before, and the minute no one cares enough to like ask for a photo with you, you're going to complain about that. The same people complaining about taking them in the first place. It's like no one wants it. Hey, you want a picture? No. What? Like, you're honored, and these people are the reason you do this. These, the fans, and they're the ones you're making. I mean, they're the ones you're performing for. I make music for myself, and you hope that they like it. That's the thing with Exodus. We only write music for the five of us.
Yeah, and you must have seen a bump in fans after you joined Slayer. Then hopefully some of those people went back and discovered Exodus. I'm hoping.
Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of people like, on my Instagram, like you discovered Exodus via my connection with Slayer, and that's cool. Whatever helps the band. I mean, I have an outsized social media following on Instagram. I don't know why, other than the fact that I'm like an open book with people, and I think that brought people in. Because there's a lot of guys way more famous than me with fewer followers, and I still don't understand it. But I share more than just curated post about like whatever latest show I'm doing.
Yeah, no, I think you're an open book. I think that's what makes good social media. It's not boring.
Well, someone also said Gary Holt's a meme lord, and at the time I'm like, this was a few years ago. I'm like, what's a meme lord? I kind of figured it out, but you know.
Yeah. No, that is cool. Like, so when you I was thinking too about you talk about Force of Habit in the book and how you kind of wanted to make that like your Metallica Black album. And people kind of accused you of doing that, and then you say, "Yeah, well, I did hear the Black album, and so it did kind of influence me." But then you kind of regret how it came out, like that you put two covers on the record. Is there anything else that you would do differently with that one?
I mean, with some editing, the thing is, the songs on that album, we demoed a lot of them, and the demos are better. And, that's kind of the danger of doing demos, I've always found, is that you put fresh, raw, new energy into those that the secondary recording doesn't capture as well. I mean, some of my favorite guitar playing are myself and Rick Hunold's on that album, and it's still a faster album than the Black album. There's plenty of fast songs on it. The thing that I think caught a lot of people off guard is it doesn't start with a fast song. We always open up an album with a barn burner, but I mean, I think with some self editing and eliminating the cover songs, it's a good album. People are asking me to play stuff off that all the time now.
Yeah. Do you think I think you said Exhibit A and B, those are two of your favorite albums. Is that you think those are the
Yeah,
best
crushing,
ones?
crushing. That's the sound, for better or worse, of a band doing exactly what they want to do. And that is, if we want to write a 10-minute song, we're going to do it. It's a journey. I'm old enough to remember what it's like listening to a Rush album where like one song is an entire side, and we didn't fucking care. Like, we're just gonna sit and pour over the lyric sheet and listen to it and dedicate some time to it. Now I think people sometimes want to listen to albums in fragments. They gonna listen to it however long it takes them to get in their car and drive to the grocery store. I don't know if people do like I did when I was young, where I got the album and the door was closed and don't bother me, you know.
Yeah, but you don't listen to as many albums now. You listen to mostly soft rock and sports radio, right?
Soft rock, 70s soft rock and sports radio. Yeah.
Yeah. So how would you like if you're getting a new band to join you on tour? Like, I mean, I'm assuming you have to listen to their stuff though, right?
Yeah, I'll check it out. A lot of time, most of the time, I'm familiar with it and stuff. This is just what I listen to in my car. Like I have Sirius XM, and I've never used it. You know, I should cancel it. It's a waste, even though it's $5 a month. I never use it. I used it once. You know, I have my local Bay Area sports station on where I'm listening to all the fucking 49er and Golden State Warriors news, or I'm listening to the easy listening station because I'm surrounded constantly by loud, distorted guitars. I quite often want to get away from those.
Yeah, it's like taking a break. I get it.
Yeah, it's like you're a mechanic. You don't want to go home and work on cars.
Right.
Like, you know, it's fucking who wants to, like, you know, do the same thing all day long. I'd rather listen to Adele in my, you know, in my free time. You know, I'm a huge super fan.
But what about like teaching guitar? Because I know you released a video in 2008, a lesson in guitar violence. It was like an instructional guitar video. Would you ever want to do more of that, or do you ever give private lessons?
Way back in the early 80s, I gave a couple lessons that mostly it involved the guy coming by, and we'd go to the park and smoke a joint, and he'd watch me play. You know, yeah, I get asked to do another guitar video all the time. Maybe at some point, you know, I might do do a Patreon thing or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Yeah, well, that's great. The book is coming out. When is it? When is the date for Fabulous
April
Disaster?
1st.
April 1st. Okay.
Yeah,
So
no April's Fool's joke. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I highly recommend this book. If you liked The Dirt, or if you're just a fan of you or just a fan of rock, like this is one of the best rock biographies I've ever read. It's really
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
It's inspiring. It's funny. It's crazy. It's like I said, you know, it's a redemption story. I mean, it's got everything really.
Yeah, you'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll be on the edge of your seat.
Yeah, it's great stuff. Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Anything else to promote? Exodus music coming soon?
Just a new album next year.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Topic, one of a kind. From the rockers to the wise men.